Okay, welcome back, and in this video I'm going to show you how I program the Radian Pro using the DX6 radio. For most of my flying I'm going to use my DX18 radio, but the DX6 radio will be the buddy box if I want to teach somebody to fly. And so all the programming in the DX6, did I say DX6i? I didn't mean DX6i, maybe. So the DX6 will be the buddy box, and the programming in it is identical to the DX18. It has to be, because that's how I like to fly, using the programmable master mode, which you can see in other videos. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is to go into the system setup. This is the function list. I'm going to scroll all the way down to next to the last item, which is system setup, and I want to say yes. And so all I'm going to do here is go through a review of everything that's in the setup. Okay, so the model type obviously is acro. At a future date I might use sailplane, but I haven't decided if it actually works yet or not, so I'm going to stick with acro, something I know and I know works. Okay, the model name obviously is the Buddy Box Radian Pro. The aircraft type is 2 ailerons and 1 flap, and because we're using a 6-channel radio, that's doable. 6-channel receiver. And and obviously the tail type is normal, with 1 servo for the rudder, 1 servo for the aileron, but the 2 ailerons and 1 flap, there are 2 flaps, but they're on a Y connector, so that counts as 1 flap. Okay, flight mode setup, I like to use the B switch, which is on the upper left corner, as my flight mode switch. And the spoken flight mode is low rates, mid rates, and high rates, and you'll see what the rates are when we do the DR and Expo. So after that, the channel assignments are all defaulted, because you can't change them, because all 6 are assigned. Basically, you got the right aileron in channel 2, and the left aileron in channel 6, and the gear channel 5 is controlling the flaps. Okay, and don't have to worry about trim, don't have to worry about model utilities. In the warnings, I do have a warning for the flap position being either 1 or 2. I don't want the flaps down when I turn the radio on, so that gives me a warning to make sure that's okay. The telemetry, I do have the volts set up as a 3S battery with a voice alarm at 10.5 volts, and a status report every 30 seconds, and a warning report 15-second intervals. So that's the voltage setup. The Vario will give me the display is active, because that's what you want to, how you want to see it. I've assigned a switch H to it. The switch H is on the right side on the back, and that allows me to turn off the beeping. If I know I'm descending to land, I don't need to listen to the beep, so I can turn the switch on and off and not have to listen to it going beep beep. And these are all default settings, and haven't figured the reason to change them yet. So that's the Vario. The other thing you want to make sure that you have is the settings. The display is on the roller, because sometimes it can be something other than the roller. I prefer it on the roller. So you roll to see the whatever telemetry you got in the airplane. Okay. I don't need pre-flight, I don't need frame rate, I don't need binding, I don't need trainer, no digital switch setups, no center tone. All defaults here are good. System settings are good. And so now I'll go back out to the main screen by hitting the back button here. Okay, and go in, hit the roller button to go into the servo setups, so that all the travels are 100%. No reason to change any of those. The sub trim is right now at 0, and that's how you should start out. After you bind and you see that the any of them need sub trim, you can change it, or you change it mechanically first if it's way off. If it's just very slightly off and you can't adjust it mechanically, then the sub trims allow you to make sure that the ailerons and the rudder are evenly matched. Okay, so that's sub trim. I'm going to leave that at 0. Reversing for my setup here could be different if you're using a different radio or whatever. But for my setup, the throttle is in the normal position, the right aileron is in the reverse position, the elevator is in the reverse position, the rudder is in the reverse position, the flaps are in the normal position, and the left aileron is in the reversed position. So you should check that very carefully for your setup and make sure that the controls are working before you start to fly. So that's the servo setup. The DR and Expo, I have it's on low rates, as you can see, and I'll switch medium rates. Okay, so 70% and 20% Expo, 85% for mid rates with 20% Expo, 100 high rates is 100% with 20% Expo. And that's the same whether you're using the elevator or the rudder. Now this is a starting point. It's personal preference as to how you like to have your rates in Expo. This is my starting point, and so far in the flights I've made with this, I haven't changed it. However, I do fly on mid or high rates. The low rates seem to be a bit too low. Okay, differential I leave inhibited. I don't see a reason to have the differential with this. I think it helps to turn the aircraft without the differential on, so I'm leaving differential inhibited. Throttle cut, I have assigned switch F on the top right side to be a throttle cut, and that's very important to have a throttle cut and to make sure that you're when you first plug in the airplane, the throttle is cut. So you can see right now the throttle is not cut because the throttle is at 100%. If I throw the throttle cut, now it's down to -130 and the throttle's cut. Okay, no throttle curve needed. Flap system. Okay, the flap system is assigned to switch D. It's the big long one on the left side. And so I've got position 0 is flaps up. Position 1 is takeoff flaps. Landing flaps is 100% down.
Takeoff flaps, flaps up.
Okay. You can see the flaps are moving there. And you can also see that as it moves kind of slowly. That's because I have the a speed of 2 seconds. Okay. And that's to me a reasonable speed for lowering the flaps. 2 second speed delay in raising and lowering the flaps. Okay, no mixing at this point. If I decide to mix later to get crow or some of the other features, I'll do that, but right now no mixing. Be sure you do a range test. The timer is set for 12 minutes, and I like the active, one-time active, which allows it to count how long I've been in the air, not just how long the throttle's been up and down. And I do use voice alerts for every minute and tones to the countdown of the expiration, voice for expiration and voice for every minute thereafter. So you get a 1 minute, every minute you know how long you've been up. And telemetry is the same on both systems, so I don't need to show that again. The custom voice setups you were hearing was I have one on switch F for normal and throttle cut, and then I have one on switch D for the flap position.
Flaps up.
Okay, and
Normal mode. Throttle cut.
okay, so it's nice to know that you hit the right switch with the voice alert. Okay, and that's all the settings. And be sure to use the monitor to test. For example, you can go into the monitor here and you can move the rudder. Okay, and at low rates you only get 70%, and if you go to high rates you get 100%. So you can use the monitor to make sure your rates are set the way you want, and see that everything is moving in the correct direction. So that's it for the programming of the DX6 for the Radian Pro. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for additional videos.